that works better. That works better.
Oh, you gotta keep it that way.
It's got to be up and down. That is an awesome setup. It was worth waiting for.
Yeah, it's a cool place.
All right. So, it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while since all of this nonsense. So,
I left Massachusetts 53 days ago.
Crazy.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll get started with who, what, and why. So, tell everybody about yourself, where you're from, how long you've been playing, all that sort of good stuff. You've watched my interviews. You know how they should start.
PDGA number is 111942. I've been playing disc golf since about 2017, so 3 years, I guess, now. I grew up in Georgia, but I've traveled quite a bit for school and work, so that's what brought me to Baltimore, which is where I was introduced to disc golf. And then from Baltimore being here for 2 years, I then moved to Massachusetts, and that's where I met all of you. And that is essentially how I was brought into the fold at Dacey and recruited for the Prodigy Disc Street team, and really just kind of jumped in last year full force with disc golf and being competitive. And then this year, ultimately, the plan was to run some of my own tournaments and learn what it is to be a TD.
Yeah, and you already had one successful event under your belt. I guess we'll start with the one that happened before we get into the one that's pending. So why don't you talk about the one that you did earlier in the year?
Yeah, so that was on January 18th. It was the Wintry Mixed Doubles. We held that at Dacey. It was really cool. You had approached me about running a Dubs event and having it be focused on increasing ladies' participation in the sport. So I came up with 2 divisions, the player division and the player new division. And it was a brisk, 4 or 7 degrees or something that day.
Single digit.
Yeah, and we still had 17 mixed Dubs teams compete in the player and 6 mixed Dubs teams compete in the player new. So that was really awesome. I mean, 23 women out on Dacey's course at the same time playing. It was really cool.
In single digit there.
The new ladies walked away with some cool swag. They came away with a starter bag that was donated by Eagle Mill Disc Golf, which is where I'm at now. And then the Prodigy Ace Line kit, the putter mid-range driver. They got one of those kits. And then Empowered Disc Golf provided really cool throw like a girl stencils. The player division played for cash and trophy. And I think first place, the team walked away with, $100. And we paid all the way out through their entry fee back, so through $20. So it was really successful.
It was really successful and a lot of fun. And you and I were sort of talking about trying to do a couple of them throughout the year, but that obviously has not been able to happen. So,
a lot of from the players, they'd love to do it again. And so we're really trying to do one during the spring, right before tournament season kicked into full gear. But yeah.
Yeah. So the whole reason why we're here is because this weekend was supposed to be the WGE, which you were going to be TDing one of up at Salmon Falls. So why don't we talk about what that event was supposed to be, what you were hoping for, and where it might be going from here.
Yeah, so let's see. The Salmon Falls event was going to be the WGE event. And it's kind of interesting that we talked about the Wintry Mix first, because I was actually approached by Bob and Fallon at the Wintry Mixed event, asking me if I would be interested in stepping up and TDing the WGE event. And I was like, yeah, sure, certainly. So I started talking with you and Chuck and even Dean and Dan a little bit, and tried to figure out where we might want the tournament to be. Because with it being an all-ladies event, there's an interesting conversation about how many layouts you should have, right? Do you want your FPO playing the same layout that your novice women would play, for example? So I wanted a course that had at least 2 layouts. And Salmon Falls is absolutely gorgeous. And then a good friend of ours, Steven Scanzaroli, good old Steve, lives just right up the road from it. So I recruited him as a co-TD, and we got it sponsored by Prodigy, and we were off to the races. So
yeah, and then everything shut down. You posted today that you're hoping to still hold it. Are you going to try to hold it? I admittedly have been sort of out of the loop with everything PDGA at this point. Are they talking about moving the WGE?
So if you go to their website and you look, it says it's been postponed indefinitely. So I don't really know what that language is supposed to imply. I know that all events, or there's no sanctioning of events through the end of May, I think is the current one. But they've also moved a lot of the Pro Tour or postponing and canceling. So even if perhaps it can't happen this year, it doesn't mean that next year we couldn't have the Ladies Lobster Crush, and it just maybe not be part of a WGE, but we could still run an all-women's tournament in New Hampshire.
For sure. So not only are you doing a lot of things to grow the women's sport on the course, you also spend some time through your work introducing some ladies to the game. I mean, I went out and helped you a little bit with that, and then you did your own thing. But you did a lot of that on your own behind the scenes. So why don't you sort of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my job currently at MIT is to essentially increase diversity, let that be through the people who are participating in science. And so I run a lot of different programs. I create science programs for everybody through your PK through 12 all the way up through like your postdoc positions, so kind of across the spectrum. And I coordinate and run a really fun summer event where we have students come to campus during 10 weeks in the summer. And I had a group of 3 ladies who always heard me talk about disc golf. And so they were really curious about it. And so I worked it up and got them, I think, a PA3 and an F7, I think is how we did it. And took them out to Daisy, and you and Chuck were there. Emily Hansen showed up and helped a little bit. And I took them out for their first round of disc golf ever, and they loved it. And the fun part about it is they now are introduced to the sport. And so, for example, one of them went back to Puerto Rico, where she was from. Another of my students was in California, and another of my students are in Florida. So they get to take the new sport and their friends when they get back to their institutions.
Have any of them reached out to you so that they're still playing?
Yeah, so in particular, a student at UC Merced, and there's a little pop-up 9-hole that's close to campus, and so she's actually brought some people to go play, and she said one of them actually brings lids, and we'll go out and play the course. So I think it's pretty great. They're finding their own ways to stay active and introduce new people.
That's fantastic. Good job getting the hooks set, because once you play once or twice, it becomes an obsession. So
it does, and especially if you're the kind of person that just enjoys being outside. I mean, you can't ask for anything better, really.
Yeah. So what's the future hold for Caley Allen other than getting married?
Getting married on a disc golf course now. Thank you, COVID. I appreciate it.
Hey, I mean, that could go one of two ways. It could be thanks COVID, or thanks COVID. I get to get married on a course.
Yeah, my family and his family unfortunately won't be able to join us because I just don't think realistically it's safe for everyone to travel. So we're just going to have a small ceremony here at Druid Hill. But other than that, I really want to play some tournaments, Alex.
I know. I really want to run some tournaments.
You held the Flex start right before I left, or right before COVID, and I told myself, no, I'm not gonna get in a rated round. I'm gonna hold off until April and have my first sanction. I know. But his life.
In addition to Prodigy, you are sponsored by Empowered Disc Golf, which is all women's disc golfers. You want to talk a little bit about that for a bit?
Sure. So Empowered Disc Golf. Hold on. Here they are. Yeah. There we are. There's that one. I don't know where she has these. It's a small business owned by a woman, and she put out an advertisement essentially asking for women in disc golf to be sponsored. And so I applied and I selected. And it's cool because we're trying to create a community where we all have different levels of experience inside of disc golf. Some of the women have been TDing events pretty regularly. Some are a little bit more like me, where we've maybe TD'd 1 or 2 events, but we're part of a large group, and we have a passion for the sport. And so we're trying to create a network to essentially empower women to feel comfortable to play disc golf, regardless of division, regardless if you're the only woman there, essentially creating a framework for people to have conversations. So it's exciting. And for anybody watching this, you should reach out if you're interested in cool decals. I mean, she even does fun hats, and she'll do towels. She has logos. I mean, just all kinds of really cool swag.
Yeah, it seems pretty handy. Definitely has a cricket or two, She's awfully crafty. Yeah, so I don't know, like how are you sort of keeping yourself occupied in all this downtime?
Well, surprisingly, I don't have a lot of downtime. I'm one of the fortunate few who are still working full time. So I set up shop essentially at Nick's house, and I have my own little office space. So I go to work every morning, and I work until maybe whenever 4 or 5 or what have you. And then I get out of there and we try to go outside and go do something. But I'm one of the fortunate few who are working. And I don't know what academic year is going to look like, right? Because I work in and so that's all still up in the air. Like, because Massachusetts still hasn't opened, and I don't think they're going to for a little while.
Yeah, my district's closed, and I knew since we're both in the education field, like the superintendent of my district's there's a lot of possibilities out there. So who knows? It's a very different world that we're gonna be in.
Yeah, so all my summer programs, I've had to redesign them so they can still happen, but they're being done in a virtual component now. So we can't, because I don't think any of us are going to be on campus in the summer. So work is interesting. I really hope that the COVID situation kind of starts to settle and we can start getting back to some sort of normalcy again. I know we complain a lot about not being able to golf, but in the grand scheme of things, that's just a small piece of a much larger puzzle.
For sure.
I'm reminiscing, right? I have the ruler of the shirt on. That was a great event. So many great events last year, and so hopefully we'll see them again.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we can get some tournaments going and at least keep some of our sort of normal events that we would run every year all fit. It's going to be an absolutely hectic tournament schedule, but there's already been
What are your thoughts, right? So I know a lot of courses, for example, in Maine and New Hampshire, are allowing tee times. And would it be feasible to have tournaments run or
I mean, you're talking to the flex start king here. So I mean, I would love to see tournaments sort of transition to all flex starts. I think that just as a TD, it's so much less stress to run a flex start than it is to run a normal tournament. And one of my big goals this year was I'm not playing events that I'm TDing unless they're flex starts, just because when I get out on the course after doing registration, it takes me 5 or 6 holes to be like, okay, I'm a player now. And then with like 4 or 5 holes to go, I'm sitting there like, okay, I need to make sure I'm flexible. That's like, it's not a good situation for me. So I wouldn't take that.
I remember just having that conversation.
Yeah. But we'll see where it goes. And, I mean, the best we can do is wait to see how, everything's just so up in the air right now with everything. And there's always new information coming out that, like, it's very hard to plan things. And, especially just trying to circle the wagons on everything here is, there's been a lot of really great momentum in our sport. And especially on like the women's side too. And I don't want to see this situation sort of killing a lot of that momentum.
I don't either.
I mean, with the whole disc golf network that got launched and some of the changes that have been made to the tour, like I really hope that it doesn't kill that sort of momentum and that we see this opportunity as sort of a soft reset button, that the problems that we might have in our game we can address and sort of just reboot everything. But we're going to have to regardless, so we might as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you brought up not wanting to lose the momentum. I know here in Baltimore, Druid Hill Disc Golf Park was still open up until maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month. Maybe it's been that long now. All the days kind of blend at this point. But I remember being out there, and I've never seen so many new people playing. It was groups of families, groups of women, men, just out there playing with 3 discs, had never done it before. And so there was definitely like a visual growth in the sport. Once everything started to shut down, people were like, well, what can we do? Hey, there's this sport called disc golf. Let's go play. So hopefully with some of that new growth and this opportunity to reflect, I don't think disc golf will die. I think it just might have to be reworked, maybe. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah. All right. Anything you want to plug or say before we get going? Because I've got to screen grab this before we do the next one with Cass later on tonight and get all that. So.
Cass at 7 or 8?
Yeah. It's 7 o'clock, so tune in for that, too, to learn a little bit about Cass.
Definitely.
So, anything else that you want to go through?
As far as any plugs or anything, I mentioned the Prodigy Disc Street team, which I'm incredibly grateful for being able to throw their plastic and be part of that community. It's really been, it's completely changed the way I look at disc golf and how I have the access to get involved. So I'm eternally grateful for that. The community through Empowered Disc Golf has been great. I've enjoyed getting to know all the ladies. And I really hope that we can run some tournaments together in the future. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so, if you want to give Caley a follow, highly suggest doing it. She's awesome. Not only a great disc golfer, incredibly intelligent human being, Dr. Allen over here. It was awesome seeing you. Stay safe. Hopefully we'll see you soon before. Hopefully you're back up here before your wedding day. So
maybe.
Maybe.
I will say one thing, just because I am in this awesome space right now.
Do it.
If you are in Baltimore and you're playing disc golf, or you live in the Maryland area, you should definitely swing by Eagle Mill Disc Golf. It's right in the middle of Baltimore. It's in a really cool historic warehouse. It's a massive building, and they have this great shop right here. So if you're ever in the area, swing by and see it.
Next time I'm down there for the the CCHD Heart Conference in DC. I'm hoping to get some more disc golf in, not just at Bluemont down on Street in Arlington. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to spend down there and play some of those courses like Druid Hill.
Yeah, Druid Hill's beautiful because you've got the, I think it's something like 78 baskets on the course or something. So it's,
Wow.
yeah, there's
That
three
makes
different.
Borderland look small.
There's 3 different sets of 18. Like it's absolutely a beautiful area.
Awesome. Well, it was nice seeing you, Caley. Thanks for joining me.
You too, Alex. Take care of yourself.
Take it easy.
All right, bye.
Thanks for helping us out, Nick.